charge of maintenance. There's creation, that's Brahma, the guy with the four heads. There's destruction, that's Shiva. And there's maintenance. It's not easy to maintain something. Have you noticed? It's hard. So Vishnu himself personally takes that role to maintain things, to sustain something. It's not easy. So Vaishnavism is the followers of Vishnu. There are different schools of thoughts in the Vedic paradigm. There's different sampradayas, or different teachers who have propounded different schools of philosophy. So this Vaishnavism is monotheistic path amongst the Vedic path. So the topic that I wanted to address upon is that we're dealing with so much challenges on an environmental level, and what is the connection and how much can we influence that? How much can we impact what's going on in Japan, or what's going on in China, or I was just in Central and South America, and what's our role in this? How does it all fit together? So in the Vedic paradigm, the microcosmos and the macrocosmos are very much related. In the Upanishads, especially the Ishopanishad, it is stated, Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyan jagat tena taktena bunjita magridaha kasasvidanam. That we are all interconnected and we are all interdependent because we all have the same source, and thus we're all family. And if your little pinky hurts, the whole body is getting pretty concerned and wants to make it well. I travel a lot, so it happens periodically that I kick my toes on some object that I don't know was there because I'm not familiar with my surroundings. And so the whole organism becomes concerned and wants to see that that part is well. So right now there's a lot of tension between right-wing and left-wing, Republicans and Democrats. I don't know if you have the similar scenario here in Iceland, but it's a pretty globalized phenomenon. When people ask me what I do, I tell them I'm a translator. I translate from English to English. They say, how does that work? I say, I translate from old school to new school. Because in every organization, you have the traditionalists, the establishment, and then you have the innovation, the youthful enthusiasm, the creative spirits, the artsy people. And somehow or other, they seem to be at odds with each other. Have you noticed that? Tension. Yeah, between tradition and innovation. It's there in politics, it's there in art, it's there in business, it's there in spiritual movements. And so, being in a body that's 55 years old, we have witnessed and lived the old school. And we still feel youthful enough and that we understand the necessity and the need for innovation and for succession and sustainability, because our success will be judged in how well we do in succession. In 2015 in New York, in Manhattan, my main teacher, he asked me to go to San Francisco and open a center. And I asked him why. And he said, San Francisco is a very important city. A lot of good things came from there. And we hadn't had a center there in decades. And you will learn patience. And I looked at him and I said, patience? Me? You're joking, right? And he said, no. And now it's 2023, 8 years later, and I realized that, yeah, it had something to do with patience. So, we have our plan, and then there is the plan of nature, or the cosmic plan. So how to balance these two, how to reconcile these two. And that's really explained in this Ishavasya principle. That when we understand our interdependence, who is our source, and that we all have a role to play, and rather be custodian, rather be a caretaker than try to be a controller and an exploiter and an enjoyer. It is the concept of seva, or the concept of service, Nishkam Karma Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, that you have a right to perform your duty, but you don't have a right to enjoy the fruits. Now, San Francisco Center is still going on, and I'm here. It's going on better now that I'm not there. Why? Because I found people who were more talented, more patient, and smarter than me. And I got them to work together and to form a little community. And it's growing, and it's doing well. And I'm here in Iceland. I just spent 3 weeks with my old friend Mahabhavi from Norway, and we're touring the lands. Because unless we take care of ourselves and we cultivate meaningful friendships and we help each other out, how effective are we really in our work? How much can we actually get done? So, I'm not come here to teach, I come here mainly because of these two guys. And I'm very excited and happy to be here. Saw amazing nature. We went hiking up and hang out in the hot springs, and yeah, I got almost blown off the mountain by some pretty incredible storms. And yeah, you start to realize that there is a plan, and it's not my plan, and that's good. That's good. So, the microcosmos and the macrocosmos, how are they related? 25 years ago, I built a school in that place where we studied together, Mayapur, West Bengal. And at one point, we had a water problem. There was leakage on the roof, on the 4th floor. And I thought, how's this possible? How can there be, there's no pipes up there, there's no water tank up there. How can there be a water problem? So I climbed up there, and there was a 2-meter tall tree on the roof of the building. Now, how does a 2-meter tall tree get on the roof of a 4-story building? Any idea? Work with me, people. They don't pay me enough to do all the talking. We need your help. How does a 2-meter tall tree get on top of it?
Starts with a seed?
It starts with a seed. Yeah, the seeds is in a fruit. The birds like fruits. They eat, they fly around, they poop, and with the fertilizer, with the water, with the air, with the sun, boom, you have a tree. And it dug roots from here to the entrance door in all directions and right through the concrete and destroyed the ceiling. One seed. Very powerful. Ideas are seeds. Everything that you see in this world started out with an idea. Somebody had an idea that, yeah, you know, we should come on a boat here from Norway or from wherever they came. And then the idea, it manifested and it developed into whatever we see now. So, if I don't like my life right now, I have to become a little more conscious about the seeds that I plant and cultivate in the garden of my mind and my heart, because those are the fruits that I'm going to be eating. I was in Miami and I met a lady, she was screaming at her phone. Have you ever seen somebody yell at their phone? Do you ever yell at your phone? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen.
You have seen it? It looks kind of weird, right? I'm always feeling like, what has this phone done to deserve being yelled at, right? And what is the other person thinking on the other side of the line? They're just putting the phone away or muting. So I had two choices. Either go up and talk to her or avoid her. What do you think I did? can have a little vote here.
You say yourself.
Iceland is still a democracy, right? Yeah? I just came from Central America, it's going in different directions. So, plan A, talk to her. Plan B, avoid her. Okay, who's for A? Talk to her. Okay, we got 4 courageous souls. Plan B, avoid her.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No winner, right? Don't mess with her.
No,
Yelling.
if it's a man, you can handle it.
Yeah.
Oh
my! No way, right?
Gender insensitive.
Too much intensity, right? Shakti, Durga, come here. Just step out of the way, right? Otherwise you have to be like Shiva Mahadev, you land the floor and just like, okay. Who abstains? Anyone? Anybody neutral? No. Now, of course I talk to her. I'm a hockey player. It's my job. So I walked up to her and I asked her, right now, your mind, is it your best friend or is it your enemy? Are you mindful or mindless? And she looked at me and she said, right now I'm so angry, I could scream and yell at the whole world. But keep talking, it's working. So we had a little heart-to-heart. And we discussed the same topics about consciousness and interdependence and team effort. And at the end I shared with her that, did you notice that most people in most situations are outside of our control? Have you noticed that? 3 people have noticed it. Good. All the others got it figured out. So, yet the way how we respond to these people and these situations, that is always under our control. And she looked at me and she started to smile. And she said, I get it. I get it. I get what you're trying to tell me. Huh? So, she said, this was meant to happen. I'm going to go home now and read this Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to research this. And she had a different countenance. She had a different bhava or mood, spirit, than when I first met her. A few hours ago, I was in front of the big church downtown. And I met a gentleman who is a surgeon in the ER room in the main hospital. And he's my age. He said he's under a lot of stress. He's called right now to go to the church and to do some prayer. And his life is very hectic. And then he's meeting his son. And we had a moment. And he asked me if he could sit down with me on those benches that are there on the side. So we sat, and I heard his situation, and he was very, very happy to have somebody who gave him conscious attention. I'm in the schools and colleges a lot because we set up student clubs. That's what I did the last 7 years. Meditation clubs, yoga clubs, music, anything transformative. And when I talk with students, they say always very similar things, that we don't want more stuff, we don't want more things, we don't need more money, we want conscious attention, we want quality time with our parents. So if you want to give somebody the greatest gift, give them conscious attention. It's the greatest gift you can give anybody. But we can only give what we have. If I don't have conscious attention, if I'm always distracted, if I'm always somewhere else, then naturally I cannot give that. Do you remember the last time somebody heard you out without interfering, without judging, without telling you what to do, without interrupting? Do you remember that last time? You don't, right? It's been a good while, right? But those moments were memorable, right? When somebody actually heard you. That can capture your heart. Those teachers were monumental. Not the ones who gave a lot of knowledge or talked smart stuff or, could paint, the colors of the rainbow with words and poetry. No, just people who were ready to hear your story and to have compassion. What does it mean, compassion? What is the passion of Christ? It is the suffering of Christ. It means I'm ready to suffer with you and share your pain and take on some of that burden. That's why doctors, teachers, and parents, you can never be fully peaceful because you're always, okay, where's my kid? What's my kid doing right now? What's happening? And in this way, you always take on some of that tension, some of that grief. Yet, if we connect ourselves with the source, with the center, the source of existence, there will be peace. Why? Because the only quiet place is in the eye of the storm. This Kala Chakra, this samsara, this big wheel of time that is moving imperceptibly but unstoppably, and crushing everything that comes its way. The only peaceful place is where? Center. In the hub. If you connect it to center, you connect to eternity. If you try to fight the battles, you get crushed. So how to connect to center? Mantra. Mantra. Man manas, the mind, tra, trayate. To liberate the mind from attachment, from having its own way. We were talking initially when we got here. I shared how in Asunción, Paraguay, I was supposed to deliver a lecture at the university, and there was no arrangement for that program, and everything got rerouted to some food and music fair on the plaza, and we took part in that. And when we shared the message through kirtan, through chanting, and through prasadam, through sanctified vegetarian food, everybody showed interest. It became very lively, it became very, very vibrant. So I can honestly say, if you ask me the last 4 months, which is the best talk that I gave, it is the talk that I never gave. That was the best talk. So, to be an instrument, rather than trying to control the energy, means to accept my position. Now, in the epistemology of the Vedic tradition, there's Sambandha, Videha, and Prayojana. It's a little technical, but bear with me. Sambandha means relationship, which is based on identity. Any relationship you have to know who you are, who the other person is, and what's your relationship, what's your interaction. If that is not clear, then it's very difficult to move to Abhideya, which is the process, the interaction, the project. What are you going to do? And then Prayojana, or the goal, becomes unattainable. Most of our relationships and our projects fail in the Sambandha stage. We're not clear on identity and on relationship. And that's why the collaboration becomes difficult and the goal unattainable. So there is identity and identification. Right now, if somebody asks you, well, who are you? I might say, well, I'm Swiss, or I'm Californian, or I'm Norwegian, or I'm Icelandic, or I'm Indian. But that pertains to our physical frame, to our body, where it was born. Now you can change your nationality, you can change your gender, you can change your economic status, you can change your educational status, but you can't change your identity. Your identity is who you actually are. And that is Atma, the soul, the spiritual spark. We're children of eternity. We're light. We're energy. Look somebody in the eye. Just turn to the person next to you and look them in the eye. You notice something? You see someone there? The soul manifests through cheta or consciousness. That is very perceptible when you look somebody in the eye. Some people say, don't look at me. Sometimes you drive on the road, somebody's driving next to you and you look over and then they're like, hey, don't look at me, you know? You have that moment? It's like, because that's powerful. It's powerful. It's very powerful. So the soul manifests consciousness in that way. So, Nityasiddha Krishna Bhakti Sadhya Kabunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Koryodoy. We're not trying to learn a few tricks in order to make more lemonade, but we're trying to uncover our true identity, to get back down to basics, the factory setting, the way how we were born. Remember when you were a kid and you were running around naked, just screaming and yelling your head off and just living the life? You remember? It's not been that long ago, right? Right? So, and then we go to school and we acquire a lot of data, a lot of information. There's a lot of do's and don'ts, a lot of protocol. And then oftentimes we turn into idiots. Sometimes then you graduate and they give you a diploma and they say, now you're a certified idiot. By the way, you owe us so and so much money with interest, and now go out into the world and be a good person. So, education means not just to be able to memorize facts and figures and to regurgitate data, but education means to understand the difference between matter and spirit, and to understand what is vastu, what is substance, what is actual reality. And the Vedic texts have spent quite a good amount of energy to discuss that. The first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra is Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire into what is my true identity, what am I here for, and what is my aspiration. So how can we have impact on Fukushima and on whatever else is going on out there? Again, the microcosmos and the macrocosmos, the manifestation of the level of pollution that's there. I just came from Mexico City, 30 million people. So many cars that you're only allowed to use your car 2 days a week. According to your number, your license plate. Yeah. The rest, public transport. Pretty good metro, you know. So, the smog is so intense, it's like Beijing or Moscow. It looks every day just like a big mushroom. And when you come here, you feel like, I can breathe. You know, there's oxygen here. Sometimes, every now and then, I get courageous and I go and I attend some board meetings. And the same feeling always hits me. It's like there's no oxygen in here. You know, that kind of... And it's not because there's no ventilation, but just because I feel like I'm not needed here, I don't have impact here, it's not my game. Yet still, sometimes we try, and we and we feel that let's see if we can have some involvement on this level. So, if I change my way of thinking, if I change my motivation, then my universe changed. The pollution that we see in the world is a manifestation of the pollution that we have in our minds and in our hearts. There's so much toxic waste. Kam, krodh, lobh, moha, mada, matsarya, lust, anger, greed, enviousness, jealousy. You know the German word, Futterneid? Have you heard of Futterneid? It means you really envy what the other person has. and you can't stand that they're doing well. Rather than Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, which means let everybody be happy. There is abundance for everybody. You may be familiar with the concept of Pachamama. Have you heard of Pachamama? Mother Bhumi, Mother Nature. There's no scarcity. There's abundance. There's enough of everything for everybody. So what's the big fuss about? Ego, attitude, and politics related to that. Why? Because we have lost track of the center. We have lost track of Dharma, of the cosmic law that creates harmony, that creates a very congenial interaction between everybody. So, through chanting this mantra, we connect with the source and we feel inner peace, fulfillment. Because without peace, there is no question of happiness. If you're not peaceful, you can't truly say that you're happy. You're always disturbed. You're always in unrest. You're always like, oh, someone's out to get me. I was in downtown San Francisco on Folsom. I don't know if you know downtown San Francisco. It's right next to the cable car, like 1 block from it. And it's a war zone. It's right next to Civic Center. There's hundreds of people living on the street, doing whatever they're doing right out there. And we set up a little place there, not much bigger than this. And we're cooking and distributing food, and we're chanting, and we're counseling, and going out and meeting people. But a very common phenomenon is that when you walk on the street and you pass somebody, and then you look back, everybody looks back on their shoulder. Like, is there somebody to get me? You don't do this here in Iceland, do you? Not really, right? No. And it's not like you walk past the person and then you stop like 5 meters ahead and then you turn around and you talk to them, you know? You just stop and you talk to each other, right? There's not that like, hey, I need my safety space because otherwise I'm not comfortable to talk to. There's so many students at universities, whether it be Stanford, Berkeley, San Francisco State, San Jose State, they're afraid to look you in the eye and to tell you who they are, what their name is, what they're studying. Avoiding eye contact, avoiding personal interaction. More and more people with emotional support dogs and taking all kinds of medication. Young students taking all kinds of medication that are really not necessary. Why? Because there's so much anxiety, because of all the pressure that's being felt by them, that they feel crushed. I asked them, what are you doing here? What are you doing? Where do you want to be? And I have to say, I don't know. They told me I need to come here, otherwise my mom will cut off my debit card, or if I don't get a degree, then I won't find a job. I'm considered a loser. So gradually, people are realizing that just putting people through college may not be the solution. Why not help people find out what they love doing and then let them do that? And that would be just good enough. Different countries have different approaches to this phenomena. In some cultures, there's still the trade system where you can learn a trade, you can learn something useful and make a living with that. And you don't have to spend 5 or 7 or 8 years going to uni and then becoming an Uber driver or a barista and have $150,000 student loan. So there's different ways of how to do things. But the topic at hand is how to deal with my mind, how to deal with my emotions. So a couple of tools, and then I'll open up for discussion. What I really found helpful is that renegotiate a healthy relationship with technology. As you can see, we're not Luddites. We're not telling you to go back to the cave and to just work on your archery, and on your fishing skills. But renegotiate a healthy relationship with technology. You know that airplane mode on your phone? Use it. Whenever your office, whenever your working day ends, You can push that little airplane, and you just stay in airplane mode till the next day, till you have to go to work. You know that 70% of the people check their messages in bed before they go to the bathroom. I don't want to know which 70 or 30 where you fit in, but renegotiate a healthy relationship with technology. Rather being a servant of technology, use technology whenever it's useful, and otherwise detach. Feel free to unsubscribe. Then toxic people and toxic type of propaganda. Sometimes you get added to all these kind of feeds and all these kind of news groups and discussion groups, and feel free to unsubscribe. Feel free to just take a break from that, because sometimes it can become a little crushing. Did you ever feel depressed after watching the news? Has this ever happened to you? Yeah? No, you don't watch the news, right? You don't do social media, you don't do the news, you're just, oh, shanti, shanti. Wonderful. No, it can become a little overwhelming sometimes. I mean, for me, I travel a lot. I want to know whether the country I'm traveling to still exists, you know, and stuff like that. But besides that, but it can get to you. It can get a little heavy sometimes. So feel free to take a break from propaganda and from toxic people, and because it does have an effect. Vasanas, or impressions on the mind, they leave quite an image, and it takes a long time to deal with that. Then have a sadhana, have a spiritual practice, something that you do every day. May not be much. You may chant Gayatri, may do your yoga, may do your pranayama, your puja, chant and dance every day. Do something that gives you joy, that really gives you the buzz. And then go out into the world, and the world will be much kinder and much more fun. And smile at people. Sometimes people ask you, why do you smile? Like, what you want, you know? What you want from me? And you say, I don't want anything, you know, I'm good, but... So, we were in Santa Monica on the promenade with a few friends chanting and dancing, and there was an old lady, and she was on the other side of the promenade, and she was checking us out. She was just giving us the eye, you know, she was observing us for about 5 minutes. Then she came walking over, and she said, "Son, are you taking drugs?" And I said, "No." And she said, "That's sad. I was ready to buy whatever it is that you
Did you sell her a book?
Welcome to California." No, she was convinced about the power and the potency of the mantra. So people don't care how much you know, how many degrees you have, how many Teslas you have, how much your investment fund is worth. People have only one question. Are you going to make the quality of my life improve, or you're going to make me feel miserable? That's the only thing going on. And then and it's not intellectual, it's a visual thing, it happens here. Then they decide, I want to spend time with you, I want to find you what you're all about, I want to become like you, or I want to be away from you as far as possible. So it's monkey see, monkey do. It's not really what we teach, it's more what we live. Because that's what people are going to emulate. That's what people are going to remember. So have a sadhana, have a spiritual practice. Because if you don't have a life, how can you sell or communicate quality of life? You can only give what you got. And if I'm not walking the talk, that means I'm a hypocrite. And in today's day and age, people are not that patient. They're not that studious. They're not that austere. But they're averse to hypocrisy. If they see that somebody's not living up to his own ideals, it's not really cutting it. It's not really impressive. So, reading the Gita or any whatever yoga text that you have, the Vedas, the Bhagavatam, chant, dance, and then go out into the world and share your heart with people. And I guarantee you, people will pay you back with the same currency. They will respond. Yet it's a little hard because nobody wants to be vulnerable, nobody wants to make the first step. I have to lower my defense mechanism and let people in. Not just Iceland, but many places, Switzerland, Scandinavia, are having a whole lot of trouble with mental health issues, with depression, with suicide, with the dark side of the moon, how to deal with the mind, and what is the mind, and how to improve your mental and emotional life. And spiritual life really helps with that. So when you have a sadhana, the next thing, when you have a practice, when I meet people, they tell me sometimes, well, I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim, I'm a this, I'm a that. And my question is always, what's your practice? And very often they say, practice. There is a practice. And then they take out something, they show me some symbol, some cross or some thread. And I say, no, it's not a practice. This is too krona, You bought this cross, down at the flea market, spend maybe $5 or $10 on it. What is your practice? No, you don't understand, like they show you, like I'm wearing the stuff. I say, this is just an outfit. You can buy that anywhere. What is your practice? What do you do? So, before we call ourselves anything, we should introspect and ask ourselves, am I walking the talk? Am I applying myself to this discipline? Then the next thing is sangha, or association. You can be good, but you can't be great. You can do something on your own, but if you want to improve yourself, you have to have a peer group. Just like you're in sports, you're in politics, you're in arts, or you're in spirituality. Find a peer group, because that's how you can refine yourself. If you want a beautiful diamond, a diamond is formed under intense pressure. But if you want to cut a diamond, you can only cut it with another diamond. So how do you refine people? You put them together. And you apply pressure. And I know people are troubled because they have minds, they have desires, they have different ways of doing things. But that's the only way how we can refine ourselves. Then, when you have that sangha association, you collaborate on projects, then you ask yourself, okay, what's our contribution? What can we add? How can we be part of the solution? We already know what the problem is, but what is the solution? So, seva, service. How can we be of service? What can we do to contribute something to this situation? And that is really what the children are looking for at the university. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for a mission. They're looking for something that will be really absorbing them. That not only the pain goes away, not only the confusion goes away, but that they feel empowered and they actually have something that they're willing to embrace and give their lives to. Everybody needs that. Everybody needs that in life. What is my mission? La raison d'être. The reason to be. Why do you get out of bed? What keeps you up at night? Srila Prabhupada, who came from India on a boat at the age of 70, he translated 80 books by getting up every night at midnight without an alarm clock and translating 6 pages. It took him about 2 hours to translate the Gita, the Bhagavatam, the Vedas. And why did he do that? Because he knew that unless I leave something substantial, then my legacy, my movement will not have any impact. There's so many who came and said, I know I'm the truth and the light, and you just follow me and you'll be saved. But unless we can give people a process, we can communicate a formula and teach them principles, it won't have lasting impact. So, as we're getting older, you may have noticed some of us are getting older slowly. I know some are still very youthful and getting younger, but we're starting to think a little bit, okay, what's my contribution, you know? Like, what's it going to be? How do I want to be remembered? So find a few people and invest quality time in them and try to teach them whatever you know, whatever you got. We're here today because of the sacrifices, the tears, and the prayers of our ancestors. That's why we're here. Those are the people who built all of this and who gave us whatever we got. So as a token of gratitude, let us appreciate these gifts. Share it with ourselves and with whoever we meet. And that will be the greatest gift. And it will not only clean up our own minds and our own hearts, but it will clean up our communities, it will clean up our relationships, it will clean up our toxic waste yards and the way how we treat Mother Nature. Right now, there's a lot of retaliation, there's a lot of tension, and there's a lot of things that are not really in a harmonic relationship because of that imbalance in our relationships. Thank you for your kind attention. Any questions or comments or points of discussion or things that you were curious about or that you wanted to explore or share? Now's a good time.
So thank you for sharing your thoughts. Your core topic was the distracted mind and the concentrated mind. Obviously, the distracted minds leads towards the misery, and the compact or oneness points leads towards the happiness. So how to control the distracted mind? And you are focused on the
Yes.
abhyasa,
Thank you.
sadhana.
Yes.
So sadhana is a part of abhyasa, or abhyasa has its own way to travel towards the achieve the sense of happiness.
Indriyani paranya horingirebhya paramanaha manasastu parobudhi yogude paratastu saha. That you can't solve the problem on the level of the problem. You can't control the mind with the mind. Because you have a problem with the mind. So you have to take it on a different level. You have to understand the hierarchy. Higher than the mind is the intelligence. If your intelligence is trained, you can control the mind. But rather than work with no's, with yamas and niyamas, work with the positive, the law of attraction. What gives you joy? Give people things that inspire them, and naturally they will be ready. They will be ready to drop whatever distraction, whatever toxic habit they have. They'll be ready to drop if they have a positive goal. But otherwise you tell them, stay off the web, stay off the phone, stay off the drugs. They'll say, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. Why? Because the attraction is too strong. But if they have something better, naturally, the mind is attracted to that. So, to understand the hierarchy, how does this human body work? The physical senses, then the karmendriyas, the jnanendriyas, the mind, the ego, intelligence, and the soul. We're supposed to be the one who guides the chariot. And all this is very clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. This is ABC. But because we don't have that kind of information, it's very hard to navigate because you're trying to solve an emotional problem or a mental problem on the emotional or mental level, and you get nowhere. So we don't live long enough to make all the mistakes. Yet people say, no, I don't want to accept a teacher or a path or a guru or a discipline. So it's going to take a long time. Very few people are willing to follow a path. Because who wants to be a follower, right? Yet, we don't understand that there is room for individuality even in being a follower. And there is security and there's beauty in that. Again, as we started out, the interdependence between tradition and innovation, they can't live without each other. They can't live without each other. But we are averse to certain ideas. Like right now you can see the youth, they're averse to authority for very obvious reasons. And they're averse to discipline and following paths. I have many friends who grew up in this tradition in the 60s and 70s and said, we had 3 questions. Where is our guru, our teacher? What is our path? And what is our commune? What is our group? And nowadays it's no teacher, no path, and no group. Just postmodernism. You just go through the world and you just pick whatever seems interesting, like you're at a wedding buffet and there's 150 preparations, and you just go around and you take a little nibble. And it's kind of exciting, right? But not very fulfilling and not very healthy. One of my teachers invited me to some function, to some event, and I was a young monk and thought I'm still invincible. And I thought, let me try everything, you know. I mean, it looks pretty good, you know. You've done a good job. And I paid the price of 3-day fasting after that. I'm not going to get into detail, but you get the idea. Like you have people who go for Vipassana, they go for a 9-day cleanse, because they had such an overdose of everything that now they just need to go on full fast. So, it takes a little bit of humility to accept, I need help, I may not have all the answers. And then to seek out some guidance that will benefit us. Okay? Yes.
How to be a good friend?
How
How to be a good friend? And how and when we should say bye-bye to toxic friend. We should exit like, from that point of time.
In Sanskrit is a very scientific language. English is very big, it's very ambiguous, you know. Like you can say, I was a nice person, but that can have many different types of meanings. You have Maitra, you have Bandhu, and you have Surit. You know the difference. Huh?
Matra, Bandhu and?
Surit. 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 Yeah, Surit.
Sakha.
So,
Do we get a translation on this?
yes, some people
Thank you.
some people are, you know, you meet them on the job, on the project. It's project based. Huh? So they're not your intimate friends, but you work same place or similar project. Right? Then you have Bandhu, that's closer, it's more like family and friends. Huh? But Surit is your well-wisher, is the person who has your well-being, your interest at heart. So understanding that there are nuances, it's not all is one, but there are differentiations. And just like in the story of Sudama, you know Sudama? Yeah? So Sudama was Krishna's classmate. Krishna was in Avanti, he went to school, he studied in Gurukul. And Sudama was his classmate, you know, like we studied under the same teacher back in the day when we were young. And when Sudama went to Dwarka, I'm not going to tell the whole story because it takes too much time, but I'm sure you know. They had a very intimate relationship, even though Krishna was the king in Dwarka and he had many queens and palaces and great opulence, and Sudama was a poor intellectual. He was just an academic, he was a teacher. And their relationship was very tight, and true friendship means equality. Why did Krishna not give Sudama wealth when Sudama was in Dwarka? Why? Because Krishna did not want to ruin their friendship. Because true friendship means equality. That means as long as I have a superiority complex or an inferiority complex, or both complexes at the same time, I cannot really have friends. Because I'm always trying to prove how I'm better, or I'm always afraid and try to defend myself. And that does not leave room for true friendship. Because friendship means we're same, you know? So if you want to have friends, and I'm not meaning like your 5,000 friends on social media, I mean like real friends, you know, who tell you what you need to hear to become a better person, then we have to introspect and make sure that our attitude is right. Otherwise, it will be a very big challenge
It's a good point.
to develop these type of satisfying friendships. Not that I project all my emotions and then I say, oh no, he's a rat bag, you know, this guy, kick him out, okay, next one, next one, next one, next one. And we just do the rounds till there's no one, and we think, you know, it's again me and my couch and Netflix and, you know, 2 kilos of ice cream or whatever it is, you know. Because we all need friends. But again, friend is somebody who's willing to overstep the boundaries of, you know, socially acceptable behavior to tell us what we need to hear, even though we don't like it. That's why we hang out together, because that's what friends are for. Not just the guy who comes over at your birthday, you know, eats your cake and drinks your bubbly and makes a mess, you know, and he's gone. So to cultivate those type of friendships requires a little bit of, one has to be a little vulnerable, which is sometimes hard, especially for guys. Because guys don't want to be vulnerable. They want to be strong. They want to score. They want to put scores up on the board. They want to show achievement. So to have that means if we are aware of our weakness, if you know your weakness, that is your strength. If you're not aware of it, that will be the cause of your defeat. Now, of course, Guru will also be there, but depending on whether we search out teachers. And of course, Paramatma, the Lord in the heart, divinity, is also there and is ready to tell us whatever it is that we need to hear. There's a lot of people who talk to God. There's very few people who listen to Him. I'm on campuses, and in many countries, there's somebody there on campus screaming and yelling at kids and waving some scripture at them. Have you ever seen that? And I'm always tempted to go up to them and to talk to them and to tell them, you know, I know you've got a very important message that you're trying to communicate, but the way you're doing it is not working. It has not worked, it does not work, and it will not work. Have you noticed that no one's stopping, no one's listening, and nobody wants to talk to you? But then I catch myself and I say, it's not my job to tell him what he doesn't want to hear. So we have divinity in our heart, ready to tell us and to guide us, if we are willing to take that guidance. The choice is ours. I was in Georgetown, Guyana, about to board a flight to Paramaribo, Suriname, a few weeks ago. And the guy at the counter was a friendly person, and he said, you have this vaccine and that vaccine and this document and that document, and I showed him everything that I needed to show him. And then he said, where's your e-visa? I said, e-visa? I don't need an e-visa. And he said, yeah, we just introduced it a week ago. I said, oh, great, wonderful, you know, they just changed the rules, you know, like that. So, then in the psychology, what's the first thing? You know, there's denial. You try to fight it. You try to argue. You get angry, start pointing blame. And then comes acceptance. You say, okay, I accept. all right? There is a problem, and I own it. I didn't do my homework, okay? So, and then I realized I can't fix this. It's too late, you know? I'm gonna miss this flight, I'm gonna miss all these appointments and all these seminars and whatever else was lined up. So I just texted the lady in Paramaribo, it's not gonna happen, you know, like I'm stuck, I can't move. And then I sat down. Good, good, work with me kids, yes. Because tomorrow it's your game, you guys gonna be here doing that, okay? Yes. Give him some prasad, bring him something. Go, 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 it'll be fast, otherwise they go. So I just sat down and I realized there is nothing I can do to change this situation. It's beyond my control. After about 10 minutes, the same guy that was arguing with me, asking me for all my documents, he came over to me and he said, "You can board now, you can come on the flight." And I said, "Why?" And he showed me, he said, we got this message from the Ministry of Internal Affairs that you're supposed to be on this flight. And that it's okay, that you'll get your visa when you arrive there in Paramaribo, you know. At some point we have to let go and we have to surrender. And that's not just for, you know, flight situations, but it's also for relationships. That sometimes you have to surrender. Not surrender because there's a gun pointing at your head, or because you feel like otherwise you're being crushed, but because you realize that the only thing that I have, that I can surrender, is my little bit of independence, my little bit of free will. That's the only thing that I have. To consciously surrender that and give that as a gift. Okay, Krishna, I can't fix this. It's your call. And I'm happy to be your instrument. Whether it means going home or it means moving forward. It's not in my hands. And I believe we have all been in plenty of such situations. Yet oftentimes we prefer to go down fighting. Because we're kshatriyas, we're fighters. And we don't realize that it's not about that. It's about understanding what is the plan and how to be an instrument of that plan. Thank you. Short question, long answer.
Yeah. Second was like how to say and when to say bye to that toxic friend.
When to say bye? When you see that this is really not conducive. It's not helping. It's not helping that person. It's not helping me. It's not helping anybody. If it's necessary for the project, I'm ready to take some beating. I'm ready to do some austerity, some tapasya, if it is required. Because every project takes some austerity, some endeavor. But if you can see that it's counterproductive, then you feel free to close it, to bring it to an amicable ending. You know. All right. Other points or topic?
There's so much gone through my head while you've been talking. Now it's like, what do we pick up on? How do you really listen to what your true purpose is? That's something I don't want to be the 2-meter tree on the that's drilling through some cement and chopped down. I want to put my seeds in the right place. You know that I'm going to be in purpose and it's going to be fruitful for me and others. How can we find those answers truly?
These seeds are gifts, and anybody can be empowered.
How can we truly listen to where we're supposed to put those seeds? We can go and we can put our seeds anywhere. I sometimes think I hear guidance or and then you start
Doubting.
doubting.
Need fertile soil. I was in Israel, the Dead Sea, giving a seminar in Engedi, in the kibbutz, and the Dead Sea has so much salt that you can just lie on it and you won't sink. And literally 3 meters next to it, they have orchards growing dates and all kinds of fruits and whatnot. Israel is mostly rocks and sand, and yet they are one of the big exporters of produce. How have they managed to turn it around? How have they changed a place that was quite hostile from an environmental point of view to an exporter of fruits and flowers and crops and ingenuity, a lot of know-how, a lot of technology coming out of that place. Well, irrigation systems. So if I install in my own life Shravana Dijal, a daily irrigation system of a daily positive news broadcast, where daily I expose myself to positive information and positive experience and spiritual practice. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, verse 10, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena imam upayanti te, that if whatever you do it with love and sincerity for me, to please divinity, he says, then I will give you the intelligence how you can be successful.
I heard one time it was that if you're going to be great, practice what you're good at.
Yeah.
You know, because when we're putting kids in school and they're supposed to practice things that they're not good, we're supposed to focus our energy on things that are good. That's when we can become great. And it's just, I mean, we all have talents in different ways, but
You
how do
need a
you
coach.
choose? How do you
You need-
choose your good points?
You need a coach.
You need a coach.
Yeah.
That's right.
I did downhill, I did skiing, I grew up in the Alps, and I played hockey. My hockey coach, he went like this with his hand and said, your wrists are too small. You can't play league, your wrists are too small. You can't put enough power out there in order to play league. I said, well, I'm going to make up for it with enthusiasm and sincerity, because I love this game and I'm not going to give it up. But you need mentors, guides, and also the people who also help us a lot are, our friends who give us feedback. So then again, what's my life's purpose? What's my mission? Oftentimes I become frustrated because my expectations are unrealistic. Like when I went to that university to give my talk, that never happened. A part of me was pretty upset because I prepared and I have my stuff, I have my ducks all aligned, and none of that ever mattered. But the letting go of that was the lesson, and it became beautiful once I made peace with his plan. So how to be an instrument of that is really tough. Because like right now, why is there so much machismo and so much feminismo and so much clash of different contingencies who all trying to dominate and all trying to prove themselves? Because we haven't figured out interdependence, the yin and the yang, that you need Shakti, you need Purusha, you need the male and the female energy, you need the individual and the divinity and Mother Nature to work in harmony. Otherwise, it's a fight that we can't win. This battle, me against the rest of the galaxy. Now, of course, we have our projects and we have our family and friends and the things that we do in this world, but what is truly my mission, my real contribution, my real gift, I believe that plan, that gift becomes revealed to the degree of our surrender, to the degree of where we're willing to be an instrument. And then we become a conduit, then we become empowered, when we realize it's not my power. Because when you're really unconsciously competent, when you're really in the zone, you don't think, you don't plan, you don't project, you don't manage. You're just doing it. You're just living it. And that's what we want to experience. Because otherwise, life is not really that great. So, we have these moments where we felt, yes, yes. But then, what is my true meaning and purpose? I may have something different in mind. Just like now, I have some of my friends who have become great scholars, great authors, internet celebrities. I have to be me. I have to do what only I can do. And that would be just good enough, because that's my role to play. And to be happy with that is a gift. Otherwise, we're always in denial. It's like the musk deer. Do you know musk?
Musketeer, the smell that the.
Yeah, musk.
Yes.
You know where it comes from? It's a gland
Yeah.
in the deer. And the musk deer is roaming the hills and valleys of the Himalayas and is looking for that intoxicating fragrance that is emanating from its own body. So I'm looking for the magic, for the mystery, and I travel the world 20 times over, and I'm trying relationships and drugs and jobs and whatever, but it's never really hitting the spot. It's never really giving me completeness, because only what's missing that is looking inside and invoking that divine love, that divine romance, that divine relationship that will give me true fulfillment. That is not really possible on a 2 or 3 dimensional plane. It is only possible in our inner life. So when I have an inner life, when I have a bhakti life, when I have a spiritual life that is truly fulfilling, I'm not going out into the world for validation, for profit or fame or accolades, but I'm seeing the world as a playground and as a great opportunity for service. And if you have a team player and a service attitude, everybody wants you on their team. And if not, even though we may be very qualified, it will be very difficult. So, to recognize that is a gift. It's an open gift, it's an open secret. And we've all had our moments. Yet how to make the right choices consistently, how to stay consistent in our path. That can be challenging at times. It can be challenging. That's why we need community, so we can help each other. Because you can't do bigger things alone. It's just, that's why we don't do kirtan, we do sankirtan, samyak kirtan. We were just up in Göteborg last Saturday, and we had a Rath Yatra, Festival of the Chariots. We brought the deities from the temple out on the streets, on a chariot, and the whole community, and the kids, and the old people. And the bystanders were asking, what is this all about? And I said, this is playgroup for techies, you know? We have all these people here who get paid, you know, way too much, and they're way too smart, you know, IIT, MIT, XYZ, you know, like too many acronyms. But they're all little in their head, you know? So we get them out on the street, and we get them to sing and dance with each other, you know? And do some group building exercises, like let's build a chariot, and let's pull this chariot. And then, you know, let's watch the kids dance, and let's distribute food. And it was a very congenial experience. And I could see that this is what we need. We need more of that, rather than, you know, what's your school of thought, and what's your opinion on this, and what about this conspiracy and that idea. So bhakti, or devotional service, selfless love is what overcomes all these difficulties, all these shortcomings that we may face in our lives. And try to chant the mantra every day and experience that presence, that empowerment. And then, by your sincerity, I'm convinced you will get the message on what is your role, what is your contribution. Sometimes we think, no, I gotta be in charge here, you know, like I'm the old guy. I was in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. At one point, I had 4 translators, and they were arguing amongst themselves about which was the right word in Portuguese. And everybody was highly entertained, you know, hearing their debate and their argument. I was just, you know. And one was the older guy, so he thought I have to be right because I'm the older guy. So naturally, right? I'm the older guy, I know more than the others. It wasn't the case, but he thought so. So sometimes I think I have to be in charge, I have to run this, or I'm the whatever. And then we block that energy. When Srila Prabhupada came to New York, he had to do everything. He cooked, he cleaned, he served, he translated. And it took about a year till some young people showed interest. And after many more months, somebody asked him, Swamiji, can I help you? And he said, yes. I thought nobody would ever ask. I thought maybe they're spoiled kids, you know, maybe their mom did everything for them, or maybe they have maids and stuff. But he was ready to do whatever it took. Happy to start small and happy to play whatever role that was his to play. And then when people showed interest, he was willing to delegate and to empower others. And he treated every person who walked through the door like these kids over there who they were doing, you know, their signs. And they knew what we're doing, because kids are smart, you know. That's why it's so hard having children, because they look at you and say, Mom, you just lied to me. And you say, kid, you're too young, you're too small to know that I lied to you. No, how can they know that we lied to them? Why? Because God is in their heart. And He tells them, she lying. It's not true. You know? So, because tomorrow is their game. And if we can't inspire them, we have failed. If we can't hand over and we want to prove that our successor was miserable and terrible, then whose fault is it? It's our fault. Because we haven't really done our part to train them and to empower them. So if you want success, you have to have succession. That means make yourself obsolete. Don't make yourself indispensable. Make yourself obsolete. I've done 20 world tours not because I had credit cards or money or resources, but because people invited me, people wanted me. And so, and it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. At some point you have to let go and just step out of the center and let them make their own mistakes. It's part of the growing up process. It's like if you plant a seed. We deal a lot with deforested areas in India, in holy places that have been just neglected or for whatever reason. Like in Braj, in Vrindavan, if you plant a tree, you have to put a cage around it. It's called the monkey cage. Because otherwise the monkeys come and they just kill it, you know. So you have that monkey cage. But at some point when the tree grows, you have to take the monkey cage away. Otherwise the tree just suffocates and it dies. So in a similar way, we have to empower people and then let them make their own mistakes and have faith in the process. So I found a person in New Zealand who's a graduate from Auckland Uni, who's a mechanical engineer. He can take apart an airplane engine and build it back together. He moved our center 3 times. He built a new kitchen, built new bathrooms. He did it all by himself. One-man army. A little bit like Hendrik, you know, in his own way. Brilliant guy. And he's 35, I'm 55. In San Francisco, they tell me I'm too old. If I go to LA or Alachua, they say I'm too young, you know, because there it's the old school. So once you realize that it'll never be ideal, then you're happy to play whatever role is required. And that can be blissful, that can be wonderful. So to let go of our plan that I have to be in this position or in that function. Otherwise, not everybody can be prima ballerina, you know, playing the first violin. But it requires a team, an orchestra, to actually bring out the full rust, the full flavor, the full gusto. So that's what we're trying to inspire here, because I see that this is very fertile land. Iceland is an amazing place in many ways. So it's exciting to see that there's many good ideas and many good people. We're trying to create some more team dynamics in order to have some sustainable experience here. Because I see there's a lot of people coming and going, and I'm one of them. So, what is my contribution? I came to appreciate Gora and his good wife for all the sacrifice and all the blood, sweat, and tears that they have put into this place. Because it could be easy for them to be somewhere where everything is easy and everything's nice and everything's working great. But it's not easy to be in an outpost, in a place where things are going in a different way. So, but we all have our austerities and our challenges. So if we agree to share these struggles with each other, those teachers who are willing to share their struggle and their failures with me have been the teachers that were the most memorable, where I got the most out of them. Not those who had it all figured out. I have many of those too, but I can't relate to perfection so well because I'm imperfect, because I struggle and I go through my things. So to me, the teacher, acharya means to teach by example. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he's teaching to Arjuna, his dear friend. Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Vishada Yoga. What does Vishada Yoga mean? Vishada. Confusion, illusion. Arjuna was all alone. Too many options. I'm not sure. Should I fight this fight? It's a war. A lot of people are gonna die. My teachers, my family. What about Dharma? What about the women? What about the children? What about the ecology? What about the future? I want to be a yogi. I want to be a good guy. And Krishna, he heard him out. And he responded in a very humorous and in a very interesting way. So the Gita is questions and answers. It's very powerful conversation. So try to read in the Gita every day, and you will learn everything you need to know about politics, about friendship, about love, about business, about war, and especially about mission and meaning and purpose and empowerment. And then go out into the world and do your thing. Yeah, do your thing. And the magic will happen. It will happen. I'm convinced, because I've seen it countless times, countless times. So, it's a gift. Any other points or questions or topics? Oh, you gotta. It's so funny, you know, when you're in Russia Or in Germany, people always tell you what to do and what the schedule is. But in South America or in India, no schedule. Freestyle. Okay.
No, just put the clock in case you want to know what time
Sure,
it is.
sure. It is.
I'm not telling you what to do.
No, it is good. It is good to know. It is good to know. Thank you for your attendance and your great audience participation. It's been fun. And